looking at. This deck does some truly busted things. And they are up against Alfredo Barragan on Team Adventures, a deck which I know is also very dear to Autumn's heart. So we'll see which of their darlings emerges victorious here.
And this is a real case of who can go bigger, right? Who can build the biggest Katamari ball. Neither of these decks are interacting that much, but it's not zero, right?
Yeah, Leyline of Anticipation there for Autumn's side, allowing them to truly play the Flash game better than any of the Flash decks in Standard.
Oh, and that was Autumn's one main deck copy of Mystical Dispute.
A card that's excellent against Autumn's deck, but not bad in Autumn's deck either when, as Ross Merriam said, 2/3 of the room is on Growth Spiral.
Yeah, and there's certainly a point as well where those cards, we saw a bunch of main deck Gusts and a bunch of just these main deck Mystical Disputes last format, and now those aren't anywhere to be seen.
Look at this. End of turn Thassa Deep Dwelling into untap, attack with that, and Thassa's Oracle. We have a very fast clock here. Now we get to play Arcanist Owl, find another card, blink the Arcanist Owl, find an Omen of the Sea. We are going off here. This is great to watch.
Are we doing it?
That Escape to the Wilds looks puny, mild compared to the card advantage that Autumn's able to string together here.
Yeah, this is a spot where all of Autumn's card advantage is also kind of more proactive than a lot of the Teamer Adventures ones are, right? You have your spell half and your creature half. It's very rare the creature half actually does something when it enters the battlefield. So Alfredo is kind of having to choose, do you want to play for value or play to the battlefield?
We get to attack for 10 on this turn, and that's just the beginning, you know? Alfredo being down to 1 somehow is not the scariest thing going on here. Petty Theft going after Thassa Deep Dwelling, but that's only a delaying tactic at best.
Yeah, this is a spot where we're seeing Alfredo go down to 7.
Thassa comes back, flickers the Arcanist Owl, that one comes back. We get to go digging again, found a Corridor Monitor.
Oh, God.
Compare that with our Nyx Lotus.
Nyx Lotus, we are going off here. That's going to be so much mana. Look at this Gadwick with that Nyx Lotus and that Corridor Monitor.
It's almost unfortunate that Thassa is so good at attacking because it means we might not get to see the busted things that this Mono Blue Devotion deck is capable of.
In the words of my good friend, Porky Pig, boo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo.
And here's granted for Alfredo Barragan. A whole sideboard full of good targets here, but I don't think any of them are good enough to get him out of this situation.
Yeah, and you can see mid-wish granted resolution, Alfredo picks him up.
And so here we go. Not a deck that you're accustomed to sideboarding against from Team Adventure side. Not one that you really can do much about, but from Autumn side of things, we see shaving Leyline of Anticipation. It makes sense if you think the post-board game is going to be longer, grindier, a bit more interactive. What else jumps out to you here?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we're seeing trimmed here from Autumn are the things that are mostly combo pieces and not going to be great at playing any sort of grindy game, because the things that Autumn is looking to sideboard in are those interactive pieces. We see another copy of Mystical Dispute coming in, for example. These copies of Aether Gust coming in, a couple copies of Negate. These are things that are going to let Burchett sort of try and pick apart the synergies from this Teamer Adventures deck. So they need to not be sinking as many of their resources into their sort of dinky cards like Leyline of Anticipation, Thassa's Oracle, things that aren't always quite worth an entire card outside of your Katamari ball.
And it's a downside of the Team Adventures deck that relying so heavily on Fire Fish is you don't really get to sideboard that much, even if you want to. Whereas Burchett, if they have 6 or 7 cards to bring to the table here, they can make the cards to do that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a spot where you don't need quite as many cards in order to set up your synergy that are only committed to your synergy.
And there is the all-important turn 1 Innkeeper for Alfredo, along with the turn 2 Lucky Clover. And if you're in the mono blue colors, you don't have good ways to get those cards off the battlefield. Oh, look at this.
Ooh, this is the start.
Copied with Lucky Clover. Up to 5 lands here, turn 3 on the play. And a lot more to follow, I'm sure.
Ooh, okay, so here's actually some of the gas that Autumn really needed to find here. This Omen of the Sea is going to see a Thassa's Oracle and an Arcanist Owl. And with these copies of Nyx Lotus in hand, Autumn really needs these sorts of cards. Cards with pips that also generate some other sort of advantage.
Some tough choices to be made for Autumn. Gonna need to work hard to find a way back into this game.
Yeah, having some way to resolve, or needing some way to answer a resolved copy of Lucky Clover is one of the things that these mono blue devotion deck is going to struggle with the most.
And Storm a copy to take down that Thassa's Oracle. Now we get to replay Bowcrusher Giant, draw a card. This is a kind of start that drew Autumn to the Team Adventures deck, and which has drawn many other players to it for our tournament here today.
Yeah, this is the point where you end up with a lot of cards that just have a little bit of interaction built in as long as you get time to interact, and then apply a bunch of pressure once you've cast these interactive pieces. Oh, how greedy are we going to see Autumn get here? I think you just have to take the Thassa.
Getting to flicker that Arcanist Owl may be a pipe dream, but it may also be the thing you have to chase to take over this game from Alfredo.
Okay, so a cycle there of Ketria Triumphs got to feel okay on Burchett's side.
Oh, but Escape to the Wilds allows Alfredo to gas back up again.
Oof.
Here is another Stomp, copied with Lucky Clover. We get to conjure for 5.
Is the first one another Stomp, or is the copy another Stomp?
But my philosophy degree did not prepare me for these questions. Now we have 2 more 1/1s off of the Heart's Desire with the Lucky Clover.
This may be the point where Autumn might just feel priced into slamming a copy of Nyx Lotus.
Yeah, I think they only have maybe 1 turn at best to make something happen. Omen of the Sea, an interesting choice instead. I wonder exactly what they were digging for.
At this point, it may just be something like a copy of Aethergust would have been the perfect draw there in order to just offset some of the cards exiled by this copy of Escape to the Wilds.
Another Fed-Off Footsteps, effectively paying for itself.
Yeah, 1 mana double Rampant Growth is fine.
We can even cast this 10/10 Beanstalk Giant if we're so inclined.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Or we just get to play a 5/5 and draw a card instead. That's fine too.
No big deal. Don't make it weird.
Alright, Autumn. What can you do about this? We are running out of time here.
We have Burchett facing lethal on the battlefield. Second copy of Thassa is not it.
Could maybe get the party started with Nyx Lotus into Corridor Monitor, but not even much devotion to play with yet.
Yeah, I think we may even just see something like Arcanist Owl into Corridor Monitor to create enough blockers to survive.
But even that feels optimistic at this stage.
Yeah, this is a point where you're basically double chump blocking here. I guess Arcanist Owl trades with the Bone Crusher Giant, but a Disdainful Stroke on the Arcanist Owl turns that off.
All right, and we are heading to a game 3 here between these two incredibly sweet engine decks. Any play versus draw considerations for Autumn here, do you think?
I think at this point after that last game, now, especially with Autumn on the play, the card Negate becomes more attractive because now you have the opportunity to negate a Lucky Clover, whereas on the draw, you're a mana behind that play.
Imagine how different that game would have been if that turn 2 Clover got negated. You know, I think Alfredo still would have had a lot going on, but Autumn would have had a lot more time to piece their draw together.
Right, those stomps wouldn't have been able to kill 3 toughness creatures, which would have completely reshaped things.
What do we got from Autumn?
Well, this is just how we drew it up. We got
we snapped that one off.
2s and a couple lands. Let's go.
Didn't even get to look at that hand before it slid into the virtual card holder there.
See, it's easy. You just look at the lands and then you look at the little pips at the top. That's how you play the devotion decks.
Got some lands, got some spells. Let's go.
Turn 2 Thassa's Oracle is one of the strangest plays sometimes where on one hand, no one's that excited to have Omen Speaker in their deck, right? But on the other hand, it is a really good way to smooth out your early draws in a way that playing something like Omen of the Sea, like you don't really need the immediacy of the cantrip that Omen of the Sea gives you. So Thassa's Oracle requiring that time investment up front kind of incentivizes you to develop it early.
I remember the good old days of Omen Speaker just humiliating Fire Drinker Satyr, Soldier of the Pantheon. It feels like Magic is very different now.
Did it really humiliate them? You know, Lightning Strike was in that format. I don't...
We just pretended that one didn't exist. But here is the turn 2 Lucky Clover. Shields down for Autumn. And there's a perfect winner for Alfredo to land the Lucky Clover.
Ooh, Thassa's Oracle beatdowns.
1 down, 19 to go. And hey, how does the 1-3 stack up against those 1-1s?
How do you feel? Well, okay, so the full art one is likely to survive longer. That's just how it works.
I'll trust you on that one. And there is the next Lotus, the centerpiece of the mana generation for this Mono Blue Devotion deck.
And at this point, Burchett is just hoping that this Nyx Lotus comes down unimpeded. Something like a Brazen Borrower could just be brutal here. He didn't have it! Alfredo did not have the Brazen Borrower.
We're crossing our fingers, trying to untap with this Nyx Lotus, and that's looking a lot more likely.
And a Heart's Desire is not going to stop it. Autumn has been shot into the late game by this Nyx Lotus.
And you know Alfredo has to be terrified of what they could be facing down on this turn.
Yeah, this is the kind of turn where you look at the Nyx Lotus, you shrug, shake your head, and say, okay, well, show me.
Someone in the chat saying, this blue deck is really quite cheeky, which is a very British and very appropriate way to express that.
I'm glad we have someone to weigh in on those sorts of things, you know? I am not qualified, not remotely.
We need a ruling from Autumn on just how cheeky it is.
Everyone's favorite show, is it British enough?
Both being British and having a flair for the dramatic in Magic as we see in this game. So here's Fed Off Footsteps. We're going to have 3 mana left over to work with for Alfredo. We'll see if that can convert into anything, though.
It looks like Autumn is planning just a Castle Vantress turn with Aethergust backing things up.
We'll scry 2. Don't want either of those islands. And look how uniform those islands are. It's weirdly unsettling. I'm not sure if I like this.
It's not Autumn's style, I'll tell you that. Ooh, even giving up this pip on Omen of the Sea.
Is that a sign of not desperation, perhaps, but just really wanting to find a productive way to spend your mana on the following turn?
Yeah, I imagine at this point Autumn's looking for something like a negate to back up the Scadwick to just absolutely bury Alfredo.
Now, hey, Arcanist Tower is a great way to start this turn. That one can affect...
It's going to demand the answer, that's for sure. Ooh, Autumn's getting tricksy here. We see this copy of Corridor Monitor entering the battlefield, and then Autumn floating the mana with the Nyx Lotus to generate an extra mana that way before Gadwick comes down, draws 3 cards, and they're all bricks. Oh my goodness, what a nightmare scenario for Burchett, just finding 3 lands off this card that they just worked so hard to resolve, while it feels like Alfredo still just has a grip.
Yeah, it's still nice to have the Nyx Lotus and the Gadwick in play, especially together. But it does mean now Alfredo has a chance to use all of that mana, all of those cards.
Yeah, and you can see Autumn here just saying, all right, upkeep Castle Vantress. I have to find something.
It feels like both players are kind of running empty, despite having all the mana, all the resources in the world. Not much to do with it.
Yeah, this is a rough position where neither player has good attacks and doesn't feel like they have anything particularly proactive to be doing here.
Autumn tanking on the scry. Or I guess waiting to get the chance to scry.
Yeah, I think Alfredo is weighing if they want to do something with this on the stack.
Now that's a deep drain. That's a good payoff for the creatures on the board and also the lands on the board too. Deciding not to head into combat right now.
And this is a spot where Autumn likely has a read on some sort of counter spell. They've worked pretty hard to just try and double spell their real payoffs on each turn. So now they can Castle Vantress and try to find another relevant spell in order to build a big combat step.
Oh, but look at this. Here's Granted with Lucky Clover.
Ooh, and this copy of Aether Gust has just kind of been rotting in Burchett's hand here.
Storm's Wrath, the get from the first one. Now that's a potentially good target for the Aether Gust if Alfredo's relying on that one to clear up this battlefield.
Ooh, with Negate back up.
So here's the fight. We'll tap down that token for good measure. There's a Negate, and all Autumn can do is use that Castle Vantress in response. There's a Negate, but that's one turn too late, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like Negate is kind of taxed at this point when that Lucky Clover is in play, because you can't actually get both halves of any of these cards, or any of these adventurer spells, rather. If you're keeping it, it's for exactly something like Escape to the Wilds.
And then the gate joins that island on the bottom, Autumn coming to that same conclusion. Ooh, but Arctis Owl, a fantastic draw off the top for Autumn.
Oh, that is a sight for sore eyes.
And
oh
look
my
at this,
god!
Another one. We get to chain these two together. But going digging again, we find a third owl for 8 mana. Play the Arctis Owl for up to 12 Blue Devotion. We find another Nyx Lotus.
And now Thassa's just gonna blink one?
And now Thassa's online, more than online. We're lapping itself here. It's by a comfortable margin. Get to pick up a nice Omen of the Sea.
Thassa is online.
All right, Alfred, you got another Storm's Wrath in that 75 over there? Because this battlefield is a whole lot scarier than it was last turn.
Autumn making it look like that previous battlefield was bait.
All right, here's a second Lucky Clover for Alfredo.
Well,
and we're just casting a 1/4 Fae of Wishes.
Ooh, okay. Fae of Wishes coming back. I think Alfredo has to find Ugin right now off of this Granted to come back in this game.
Alfredo can restock his hand, but I don't know if he's going to get a turn to use that Ugin. I think Autumn, we already have 13 Blue Devotion on the battlefield. I think they can just win the game.
Well, they're still a couple of points of power short. They need to find Thassa's Oracle right now.
I didn't mean via combat. I meant, we can make a lot of mana, we can go digging. A lot of ways to make something happen. Not having the Leyline of Anticipation in the deck anymore means that it is harder to string together some of those chains with, blinking something instead of all the mana again. But still a ton of resources at Autumn's disposal.
And with a couple of omens in hand, I don't think we're going to see the Castle of Antris getting activated at sorceries.
How do you feel about... So now we can play Gadric draw into the negate. Just tap on Nyxotis for oodles of mana, I think is the technical term.
But what if we find a corridor monitor? Wow, was that 0 castables and 11 cards?
It may have been. Wow.
That is a record. I'm going to call it right now.
Wait, so now, if Alfredo has a way, he could find a mystical dispute to force the Ugin through the negate, then we might be seeing this game swing back in the other direction.
Yeah, this is so back and forth. Ooh, there's that corridor monitor.
Always nice to see discard 7 cards pop up at the end of the turn. A prompt you just love to see.
There's almost a point whenever you look at a hand of 14 cards in paper where you have to go, all right, am I discarding 7 or do I pick the 7 I want to keep? And just an absolute wall of counter spells.
Perfect hand to recover with.
And that is going to do it. Autumn Burchett